Welcome to our first Strengthening African Australian Family and Community Relationships Convention 2018. Thank you for coming. It's so humbling to me, you being here and I being your MC. First, I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting. I pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and the elders from other communities who may be here today. I will be introducing the next three people. They're going to be telling you a little bit more about what this convention is about. And the first person is Teresa. Welcome, Teresa.
Why are we here? We are here because we want to keep our communities, families, and to keep the African and Australian family unit together. And that's what the most important thing of why we are here. Going through this program stemmed from a partnership with the Family Safety Ambassador Program, the Respect project. It was a partnership within my care, New African Men Network, and the African communities. And it was funded by Office of Prevention and Women's Equality, Department and Cabinet. The Safety Ambassador Training Program this is a community-led. We met with the community leaders, from diverse communities, and the partners were My Care, New Hope Foundation, which now used to be New Hope Foundation, Dispute Settlement Center, Victoria, they are the one who the partners, the service providers, Victoria Legal Aid, In Touch, Link Health and the Community, Think and Prevent, and then Faith Leaders. All the first, and some of those service providers and communities, they are here, like David, Elaine, Heidi, and so also the main of this convention is people to get access to these services, what resources which are here. And these people, they are prepared to help our communities, to keep our communities together. So please talk to them. And even they are prepared to come to individual community groups and pass on the skills. We met together, we identified the issues which helped us to develop the training program. The program included a peer-to-peer family violence training model, 8 sessions for peer educators, training programs, and from different groups, Somali, Ethiopia, Sudan, South Sudan, Liberia, and also Malawi and Uganda. Then the second stage was communities to go and organize education sessions to their communities. And this is one of the part of that program. The people who were in this partnership, it was the Malawi, Uganda, Liberia, Sierra Leone, but all the other communities have organized their own information sessions, as the needs of the community, and in the areas which was selected by the communities. So there is no imposing we want this, and also the facilitators. These programs were co-facilitated with the special service providers, which means taking on the skills to the community and also spreading it on. So training programs focus on well-being of the family, not only family violence identification and prevention strategies, positive communication. There's sometimes there are a lot of miscommunication which might cause to violence. And David here, he is very good with that. Positive communication, relationship building, respectful relationship.
Thank you, Teresa, for that wonderful, inspirational information. I'm sure for you sitting here, that is something to think about and something to take on board, because communication in relationships, I think, is part of also a lot of things that people need to acknowledge. Now, the next person is Rebecca. Welcome, Rebecca.
I'm Rebecca, and I'm a member of the executive of Victoria Association of Malawians and Friends. But again, people have known me, many people know me as the Vice President for Africa Day Australia. So anytime I try to wear the other hats, people get confused. And so I'm tempted to include the Vice President of ADA, because that's the role I've played for a long time, just working across the communities. My humble job this in 2 minutes is just to add on to what Teresa has said about the purpose of this convention. There are 3 things, whether you like it or not, what you should get out of here. Make sure that you have built or developed that awareness of the Australian legal framework in relationship with family law. Because this project or the convention today has drawn from the priority for the Victorian government, family violence prevention and well-being. And as Teresa had put it, my care has supported us quite a lot. So don't forget that place. The second one is just ensure that you have come out of this place, you have been strengthened or built that capacity to work with other people, family members as well as community members, in creating awareness of the available services which can support families as well as communities. Where can they go to when they are in trouble? Family, individually, and so on. And then finally, the third one is, well, we work together. We are not yes, we are individuals, but we live in a community. And so because of that, we should make sure that we have shared our strengths, building our capacity so that when we go out, we should collaborate, work as partners.
Our next guest, speaker is Selva Luca, and Selva Luca is a mental health clinician. Welcome, Selva.
Firstly, I would like to thank Rebecca and the team for giving me a chance to be a speaker this morning. And I'm happy to be here. The main reason why I'm here is about domestic violence. I think this is the thing that I have personally experienced. But firstly, I know you are reading my biography, but I just have to say I come from Malawi. And I am a deputy convener of African Task Force at state level. I'm also a member of Task Force regional level. I'm a member of Victorian VMC Regional Advisory Committee, but also a member in the Victorian Malawi Association. I won't say much. The Malawians, they know very well what I've gone through. I don't put blame on anyone, but I just have to say, for us, people of color, domestic violence happens because of unresolved trauma and also other unspeakable circumstances. The countries where we came from, whenever there is a misunderstanding, you go to the elders. And actually, when you enter into marriage, you do have a marriage counselor, even before the problem starts, so that they can actually help you when things go wrong in the family. Unfortunately here, you're just the two of you with your children, and when problems rise, there is always miscommunication. And if you don't communicate well in the families, then problems one on top of another, and then when it happens like that, then domestic violence, then separation, Who wants to be separated? No one wants to be in a family where you are separated. You want to be together, but unfortunately, this is what happens in our families. But do you know, when you have problems, kids are the victims of the circumstances, and this is what is happening in African communities. People are quickly to say or judge that African women don't look after their children very well, that's why they are on the street. The kids are only victims of circumstances. So what do we do at our organization is helping kids at risk and their families. I am emphasizing you cannot only help youth without knowing what is happening in their families. So whatever jobs you will be doing, whatever organizations are doing, I'm encouraging people, encouraging the government, they should always work with the families. Because if you cannot do that, that kid, you can help them on the street or in the office, but when they go home, they are going back to the same problems.
So we've reached the official part of this proceeding. And our next guest, many of you know who he is. He's a state member for Essendon, the chair of the implementation of the African Action Plan. He is passionate about social calling, and he believes in a world that's fair and equitable and regards all citizens as equal. Ladies and gentlemen, would you welcome Daniel Pearson?
Look, it really gives me great pleasure to be here today and to represent the Minister for Multicultural Affairs, the Honourable Robin Scott, who is unable to attend. And I would like to acknowledge the great work that Rebecca performs in her community with Teresa. I got to know Rebecca and Teresa through working on the African Ministerial Working Group. And it's interesting because people like me as elected representatives, we can have the very best of intentions. We have aspirations as the sort of society and community we want to make and we want to create. But we've got our lived experiences. And my lived experience is I'm a middle-aged white guy. And I have got the very best intentions, but I don't know what it's like to experience racism. I don't know what it's like to be a new migrant. I haven't experienced that isolation, that loneliness, and the stresses and the challenges that it brings. And so it's been a really wonderful experience to work with many of the community leaders as we try to understand in a bit more detail some of the challenges the community is facing, and then to try and develop up a response to deal with that. So a short speech is a good speech. That has always been my rule. So I'm delighted to be here today. I thank you for your attendance. I thank you for the warm welcome, and I hope it's a fantastic conference.
So now we're going to go to the plenary sessions, and the first person we're going to call upon is Zioni. Gender, equality, strategic conversations. Zioni Walker, welcome.
Thank you all very much for inviting me. It's always an honor and a privilege to share my context and listen to other speakers at sessions like this. I want to start off by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet. I pay my respects to their elders past and present. I also actually want to acknowledge that I believe it was yesterday that the Victorian Parliament is actually having discussions to be the first state in Australia to have a treaty with the First Nations. I think that's an absolutely marvellous thing to do, and as Victorians we're all proud of that. Sometimes we don't really stop to think about how we've designed our societies. We don't really stop to consider that we've designed our societies sometimes to exclude people and sometimes to victimize others. And it's usually done by the most powerful people in societies. And it's not a coincidence sometimes that in societies that believe, that say white people are superior to black people, you then design segregation or colonization or apartheid or slavery. In societies that believe that older people are more important than younger people, you then say children should be heard and not listened to. In societies that say blind people don't have anything to contribute, you don't design a society that accommodates their contribution and their skills. In societies that say that women are not important, that women are less, or that men are superior, they're more compassionate, they're kinder, they're all round better human beings than women, it doesn't surprise us, and it shouldn't surprise us, that violence against women then becomes an outcome of our shared collective beliefs of our society and who we are.
So first I want to thank you all for having myself. So I'm Elaine Prime from Victoria Legal Aid in Dandenong. And we've got Deidre McCann here also, who's our managing lawyer from Victoria Legal Aid, also in Dandenong. So I wanted to say thank you for having us along today for the conference. I think it's something that our office in particular has been very privileged over the last 6 months or so to be partnering with a lot of the agencies involved with the Family Ambassadors program. So I think that's been a wonderful opportunity for us because we're kind of like that big clunky mainstream organisation to be working with the partner agencies to be building relationships and creating connections with communities. So I wanted to firstly thank you for having us be involved in the project as we have been able to do. I also wanted to, I guess, also as has been said previously, is also acknowledge that we're meeting the traditional owners of the land and pay our respects to their elders past and present, and also pay our respects to other elders of other communities here today. And thank you again for having us. I guess we also wanted to, as we're doing a workshop later today, and it's great to let our Ponzi owners talk because what we've been asked to come along and talk about is a bit of the legal context when we start talking about the laws in relation to families. So we'll be going into that. I'll explain a bit more about that in a sec about what we're going to do. But we thought we might just also start off with a bit of introduction about the work that we do at Victoria Legal Aid, but also across a number of legal services, including community legal centres. Particularly in relation when we talk about the laws in relation to families, it touched on a number of different areas of law, and part of our role is also to be out there in the community, assisting people to be able to access legal services and understand the justice system, but in particular understand a lot of laws that particularly do impact on families. So I might now pass to Deidre to introduce a bit more about our service.
Thanks, Elaine. I really just wanted to give you, I suppose, a bit of the broader picture of Victoria Legal Aid's position within our state and the wide range of services and assistance that we provide, and our role within the justice system and the legal assistance sector. And then, I suppose, drill down to where we're at today and what we're actually talking about. So, VLA is a large organisation and has responsibility for administering the provision of legal assistance in Victoria through what we call a mixed model. So, Legal Aid is responsible not only for providing an in-house practice and employing people like myself, people like Elaine, and lawyers to assist people with legal problems. We also provide funding to private practitioners, so private lawyers who would assist people with legal problems. We also assist in funding CLC, so community legal centres, specialist legal centres, as well as more generalist legal centres. So we have quite a broad role within the community in relation to legal problems that people experience.
I am just quickly running through slides to give you some key points so that I can come to the conclusions. I know that I may not have a lot of time, therefore I won't be too much details. But you can see that these are common behaviors of people together. As I have indicated before, individuals behave differently compared when they do behave in groups. Therefore, understanding these behaviors in the communities is quite important because we do manage those behaviors. It depends whether we are alone or with the others. These are key elements of collaboration. You have to establish a sense of trust, and that's very important. You have to have common vision, you have to have common identity, and the rest. I won't go through the list. You clearly see these are behaviors that people have within community setting. This is a very interesting psychological map, the elements of trust. credibility, reliability, intimacy, all put together by self-orientation, which adds up to what's called trust. How do we build trust? You can ask yourself, the person I do trust, what sort of characteristics that the person has. In the afternoon when you have the workshop, this is going to be one of those things that are going to come up. Trust has also got some ingredients. You can see that quite clearly. I am trying to rush up because of time, but you can clearly see what I'm trying to communicate. Good, these give us some kind of good community relations in relation building. If you want, I'll pass this whole slide to people to see much of what I am actually putting across, as tips. These are some of the key challenges that actually I would like you to take with you. These are some of the things that we really have to consider as African communities.
My interest is in looking at, here is a new and emerging community. What are some of the things that we experience as new immigrants, and what are some of the helps we will get by understanding ourselves first and then understanding the context in which we come. And here are my objectives. And as I said, we'll be working on these in the workshops. But one is to look at what are the strengths, what are the capabilities that we as communities have, and how can we use those strengths to help us integrate into the community we've come, some to rebuild lives, others to start lives meaningfully. And also I want us to enjoy the forums. I don't want us to sit here and be bored and so you talk for 2 hours and I lost everything. We'll be doing a lot of things that will be fun. Let's enjoy our learning. And the objectives are also simple: provide a framework for self-cultural awareness. So one of the things I want us to do is focus on, do we understand our own cultural background? Because if we don't, how do we understand the one we come into? So I will just be looking at a framework for self-cultural awareness, and then develop personal framework for working with change relevant to what we consider important. And then also look at appreciating cross-cultural capabilities. As Dr. Paul was showing, it's very hard to communicate sometimes if you don't quite understand how to communicate across different people with different symbols, different beliefs, different values. So also we'll be looking at that. I'll be touching on, in terms of content, influence of culture on behaviors. And then I'll also be looking at a typology of cultures. And Zione did a good job to show us that we build societies. Societies did not drop down from the high heavens and say, hey, live within this. No, we actually construct them. So I want us to look at a typology of cultures and how those affect one who comes in, one who chooses to live within those cultures. A bit on some skills for communicating across cultures, and then look a little bit at process of change. So really I'm just giving you what we'll be doing this afternoon.
I'm from a place called the Dispute Settlement Centre Victoria, and I'm not quite sure if you're aware of what we do, but we're funded by the Department of Justice to help people who've got any kind of dispute, conflict, resolve it themselves. And the department funds this program. It started as a community organisation. It was there to help people keep their disputes out of the court and out of the legal system. And we started these sessions today talking about the legal system and its impact on people when family violence occurs. And we've talked about the effects of community and the effects of culture. So my presentation is going to go down to those interpersonal relationships where disputes occur. And I'm going to talk a little bit about conflict. So I always start when I talk by acknowledging the fact that we are meeting on Aboriginal land, so I too pay my respects to the traditional custodians in the land in which we meet, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. And then I show you a picture of a car, an old annoying blue Volvo. And the reason why I do this, I often do this at the start of presentations, is to get people to sit and reflect on how they might handle a conflict situation. And this is a very routine, everyday kind of situation where imagine that you're in your house or your front yard or your front door and you see this car chug along and it parks itself over your driveway. Or if you're living in an apartment, it parks in your parking spot. Now you don't have to tell me, but I just want you to think, how do you react to that situation when that person gets out and they've inconvenienced you, they've parked over your space? Different people will have different reactions. Some might say, I don't want trouble, I'm not going to confront that, that's not my personal approach. Other people might immediately talk to that person, take action. So I'm going to change that slightly and say, what if it wasn't a stranger? What if it was the person who lives next door across the road and they always do this? Do you change how you talk or react to that person? Then I want to think, what if it's actually your son's friend? And this is a friend who you don't think is a great influence on your son or daughter, and they come and they park over the parking space like that. Does that change how you feel about the situation, how you react? And the reason why I mention this is the Dispute Settlement Centre, we get all kinds of content, all kinds of conflicts in all kinds of contexts. But there's one thing that's common to all that, and that is there is a relationship between people. And when it gets to the situation where people need outside help, then often what's happened is respect is broken down in between those individuals. So we work on a basis, on a philosophy, that everybody has the ability to resolve these kind of conflicts if they deal with it early.